who is Captain Moretti's executive assistant. They've been the spearhead of this project since last year, working with our IT team, so they will also be the ones leading you through the training today. We started, like I said, we started this project about a year ago. The captain and Dr. Irving were the ones that asked us to go and look at this and move us into the 21st century and start digital routing versus the hand delivery of documents. I'm sure you deal with what we had been dealing with, where it takes a long time to route through the system, often gets lost or held up on people's desks because of workload or leave, and then you run around trying to track these things or lots of phone calls. So looking for a way to streamline that process, and then also to have an easier way to do updates and edits to the documents as they route through the chain. So it quickly became an emergent need once we all moved to mass telework in March due to COVID. And so we escalated the need for this and pushed hard with our IT group to get it launched, which we did. I think lessons learned along the way, of course. So since then, we've routed about 350 documents through this. And so we're finding great success in this project. Great feedback from our workforce that's using this. We require all of our documents that go to our command office for review and approval to go through this process using the route sheet. But they can also adopt it throughout the organization at Keyport and build their own route sheets within their own department. So they're starting to use it that way as well. We're learning as we go, refining our documents and process guide as we learn more about this and questions come up. And then Stan reached out to us, and obviously Captain Moretti has been a huge advocate for this and talking about it a lot at the COTD Telecon. So Stan reached out and asked us to show you how it works and to see if you guys can use this as an application. So we've been moving forward to help with the soft launch. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kylie and Megan so they can walk you through how this process works. And then at the end, if you have any further questions for me, let me know. Thanks so much.
Morning. So thank you, Gina. As she described the DRT, we're really excited to show you guys its capabilities. As she said, I'm Kylie Schmuck. I am Dr. Irvin's executive assistant here out at Newark Division Keyport. I do just want to give you all a heads up. We are recording this just for future training and demo going forward. So just a heads up for all of you online. We're going to be screen sharing, so it's great. I think that the only person that has called in is Pam, and she's also online too, so that's wonderful. You guys will all be able to see our screens as we walk through the DRT. So I'm going to turn it over to Megan.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Megan Gadar. I'm the EA for Captain Moretti. And we're going to, I think the user guide was attached to the Teams invite for everybody to review. We're not going to go step by step on that, as we'll show you the actual tool here. But there's a few pieces that I wanted to point out within the user guide. And the first part is browser support, which is section 1.3 of the user guide. So when you open the DRT, make sure that you open it using Chrome and that you select your email certificate. That seems to make it go a little easier. We experienced some issues accessing if people didn't do it that way. So just kind of a lesson learned. And then the next piece would be user roles, which is section 1.4. So the originator would be the person who creates and submits the initial request. This would also be the person who's in charge of tracking the document, keeping it moving, etc. Reviewers, when we talk about reviewers, those are the folks in the chop chain. So like on the route sheet, how you have people listed in order, those would be the reviewers. And then we also have administrators. Administrators are granted access to all the records in order to make changes to any item within the DRT. So an administrator would be somebody who could go in and keep something moving if an originator is on leave, or if they need to make changes to the route list or anything like that. So those are just some first key little points that we wanted to go over. And now I think Kylie's going to take it over and show you the actual tool, and we'll route through a document so you'll be able to kind of see how that works.
Okay, I'm going to screen share, hopefully. There we go. Can you all see that? Yes. Okay. So this is the main landing page, and this is the headquarters page. We have our own at Keyport, but our code 104 has created this for headquarters specific. So when you come to the DRT, this is what you're going to see. This is the main landing page. So you have your My Documents, which is going to be everything that you have originated. So if you're not an originator, you probably won't really have many documents here or any. Actions required. Those are going to be the documents that are currently with you for action review. And then the All tab. Those are going to be all the documents that are currently routing through that have been completed. Everything will be in there. So that is your main landing page. We do, once we have items in here, you can search by subject, status. So we have it draft, routing, or complete. And then there's different categories over here that you can search by. We also have a search bar up here. So if you type in keywords, that'll walk you through, it'll filter it and just bring up the documents with those keywords in there. So the buttons up here at the top, the DRT button, that just refreshes the page. Route New is going to bring you to a new sheet, and I'll show you that in just a second. We do have a tour function up here, which has been really helpful. So when you click on that tour function, depending on what page you're on, it will walk you through what that page does. So it'll tell you kind of what I just explained, right? So filter by partial string here, click the headers to change and sort, and it walks through the different items that we have. The due date, if a document is overdue, it will highlight in red. So those are easier to see. So when you go to route a new document, I'm going to just walk you through how to do that. I know that most of you will not be doing this piece, but it's still good to know just from a starting point how this is all created. So we'll bring it up. The one thing that we do, so depending on connectivity, it can be kind of slow and lag. So please be patient, especially if you're opening documents. Sometimes it'll look like it's not going to work. It will. You just have to let it just takes some time occasionally. So we've designed this to be like a route sheet or a brief sheet, which you guys are probably more used to. So if the attachment contains PII, you're going to click that. The DRT is approved to route PII, FOUO, and CUI, nothing above that. So if it contains PII, you're going to check that button right there. Priority if it's normal or hot. You're going to choose a deadline date. So you just click on the line, pick a date, and then you're going to click OK, and it'll populate in there. We have drop downs here. Oh, and it's not working. So mine does drop down. There's two categories. You just can't see it on your screen. I'm not sure why it does that, but there's CAC signature and ink signature. We've run into, there's still documents that we cannot sign digitally yet, like passport requests, things like that. So we have ink signature on there. It's just a heads up for whoever is routing this, like, hey, this will need to be printed and done. You're going to type in your org code, the serial number of the document. If the document doesn't have a serial number, if it's a form, you can type NA in there. It takes letters or numbers. Document type, I'm just going to say testing. The SSIC, you're going to type that in too. And then the subject. So the background section is, like we stated, per your guys' brief sheet, it just provides what is the history of this document, what is the purpose of it. When you hover over that box, again, it's not popping up for you, but it says, please provide a quick overview of the document history as well as any additional explanation. So this is really for the reviewers to just look, and it's just a quick overview of what is this document. So you're just going to type the background in there. Recommendations, again, if you hover over this box, it's not going to pop up for you, but it says action to be taken after final signature. We asked the originator to go a step further as well and put in there, who all needs to sign it. Are there multiple signers for the document? Are there multiple documents that need signature? So on and so forth. So I'm just going to say CO signature required. So for the attachments, this is where you're going to attach your document. So you can either click on it and it'll come up with a browse screen, or we've made it quite easy where you can just drag and drop a document over there. So you can attach as many documents as needed. I'm going to attach a couple here, and then it shows you the date last modified. This is the modified date of the document itself, not when it was uploaded. The for signature box, so because as you all know, once we attach enclosures, references, so on, this list can get pretty long. So we don't want every reviewer to have to go through and figure out what document really needs their review. So we have this for signature button over here, and that's either you click at least one of them. You can click multiple if multiple documents need signature, but that just somebody who's looking, this is the main document that needs to be signed, or if there isn't a signature required, that is the main document for review. So coming down to routing type, we have custom. As we get this rolling and figure out how headquarters is really going to be utilizing this, we can create different route lists for that, and there'll be automated ones. We have one for our command staff, so it auto-populates with that. But when you're doing your route chain, you're going to click the add button. It's going to pop up with a window. There we go. And you're going to type names in here. So I'm just going to add. You're going to select the person and click OK. And then as you see, it populates down here. So once you add a few people, I'm just going to add myself in as well. Whoops. So once you add some people in, if you want to rearrange, you can drag and drop those names to rearrange them however you like. So that is really it when creating a new route list. So what you can do, you've got two options up here. You can either click save, and this will just keep it in a draft status. It won't send it to Megan as the first person on here. If I wanted to go back and make any changes, or I wasn't quite sure on something, I could just save it. It would save all the information that I had in there, but it wouldn't submit it. For the sake of this, I'm going to click submit. It's going to load, and again, sometimes it takes some time, and then it's going to go over to Megan. So once I hit that submit button, after it's done loading, it'll bring me back to the main landing page, and then I'll see this item in my documents because I've now created it. So as we wait for this, as we're going through, Megan and I will explain, the whole process, but if you have any specific questions while we're doing this, please ask. More than happy to answer questions as we go. Captain.
Hey, this is Captain Tellis. I do have a question. So while it's going to go to Megan, will Megan get an email to say, hey, you need to go to this website?
Yes. So every time it goes to somebody in the route chain, so now it's with Megan. So I've come back, it brought me back to my documents. Now I can see it's currently with Megan. That's the reviewer. So yes, sir, it does. So it will send an automated email to Megan and any person in that route chain. And it says it's from iPads. So that's been tricky to train people. It's not junk mail. Please don't just delete it. It will come from iPads, but it is action. And it does say in the subject, it'll say you have something for action from, it'll say testing with HQ in the subject. So, but yeah, Megan, I'm going to turn that over to her now for her to screen share, and she's going to show you the review process of that. But yes, sir, it does send emails to.
Yeah, and sir, I'm going to take over control here, and I'm going to show you the email that I got so that you can see what it looks like. So hopefully you can see my inbox now. And so when it comes in, right, like Kylie said, it comes in from iPads. Once you open the email, it'll tell you the subject testing with HQ. It says the document's been submitted by Kylie Schmuck. Please review the documents at the link below. So you can copy and paste this link right into your browser, which will take you into the DRT directly to that document. Or like Kylie said, you could go into the DRT and go to that My Actions tab, and it would show up in there. Again, it reminds you to use Chrome. When prompted, select your email cert, and then just has some additional information in here. I'm going to stop showing this one, and I'm going to show my DRT page so that we can pull it up, and I'll show you kind of how the review process happens. So I'm going to refresh my page so that it comes up for me. And then once it refreshes, I can hit action required, and it'll show up right here, testing with HQ, that Kylie submitted it and I'm the reviewer. You just have to single click it for it to open. It'll show that it's loading, and this is the piece. Wow, that was really fast, but normally it does take some time for it to load. And this is like the number one thing that we've run into is the load time. People will think that it's not there, that it's not working. It's the number one question that we got when we rolled this out is, hey, it's not coming up. You just have to give it some time. So when I go into a document, I take a look at the deadline date, what type of signature it is, go through all the steps that she kind of went through. I'll read the background and what the recommendations are. To look at the document, you hit download. You do have to download it to your computer, to your desktop to review. At that point, if you want to make any changes in it, you can make a change to the document. If it's Word, you can track change. We recommend track changing. And then what you would do is just re-upload your document. You would unclick the old one and then click the new one that you uploaded. So the next reviewer knows which document is the most current. Again, they can also look by the last modified. And that's a big training piece, just kind of walking through folks to get used to that. So for this instance, I'll say that I've reviewed it and I'm good to go. I don't have any objections or questions to it. If that's the case, I would go down here and click the green thumbs up saying reviewed, and I could type in concur, whatever you want to type in here, you can. There is a limit of 255 characters, and that's because we didn't want to have big novels within here. We think if it's over that, maybe contact the originator directly to have a discussion so it doesn't get too confusing. So if I was good to go and didn't have any questions, I would put approved and hit OK. If I did have issues and I needed to contact the originator, I would hit the return button. I could type in any questions that I had. If the document was missing an enclosure or didn't make sense, I could type that in here, hit OK. Once I hit OK, it goes directly back to the originator. So the originator gets an email stating there's an issue with this, so-and-so has returned it to you, where they could go back in and take a look and see what your question was. So for this one, and then just really quick, we also have a remind button on here. This comes up because I have administrative rights. I'm able to see everything. A normal reviewer would not see this, but the originator can, and anybody with admin rights. So if a document is stuck with somebody and you see that they've had it for a few days, you can click this reminder button and it'll send them another email saying, hey, you still have action in the DRT. It'll send an email just kind of like the one that I showed you, just reminding them that they need to go in there and do that. So I'm just going to say approved, and I'm going to hit OK. What this is doing now is it's going to forward it on to the next person, which in this case is Kylie. Again, it does take some time, but there it went. If I go to my action required, you can see I no longer have any actions required. If I go to the All tab, I can see it here, and it's back with Kylie. So that's kind of it for reviewing. There is a few other steps involved when you return things for an originator, which we can go over, but in a nutshell, that's the review process. So I will turn it back over to Kylie and stop sharing my screen.
It looked like Pam Raposa, did you have a question? It looked like you had raised your hand at one point.
So originally I raised my hand when she marked it that she was going to make changes, but then I think as she explained, so I guess I would say the expectation is you would go in there to change, to approve it, you would just say that, and or do you say sign? The expectation is not that I'm not, if I see something, the expectation is not that I'm going to change somebody else's work.
You can do either. Really, it's set up. It kind of depends on what your process is and how you and the originator are working it. But if you want to if there's minor changes on the document, you could make those minor changes via track changes, re-upload the document, click the green thumbs up and move it on to the next person. So if you know that there's just the minor changes that can happen. And then once it gets through its change, it goes back to the originator who could then accept those changes. If there's major issues with the document, then that's when we suggest returning it to work that out with the originator before moving it forward.
So it will notify the originator. Yes. And it will notify the originator if you make changes, that you made changes.
Well, it won't notify the originator that you made changes, but if they go in there, they'd be able to see the different versions. And in your comment, when you hit review, you could say added changes to document. So they would be able to see that information in that review chain. So it doesn't necessarily alert them when it, but they'd be able to see that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
We've trained when we've done the training for our folks here at Keyport, we've told them that as the originator, you should always be adding yourself back in before the final signature, because that way you can look at it. And for us at Keyport, because Dr. Irvin and Captain Moretti have been signing things digitally for the most part, unless we can't, of course, we route it through as a Word document. We collect everybody's changes, go back to the originator if we need. Otherwise, we accept those, we change it, the Word document into a PDF. We add the digital signature block in there, and we smooth it and finalize it for either or signature, and then send it to them. So that's a big piece in there too. The originator really needs to make sure that they're putting themselves back in before the final signature, so they can ensure that that document is truly finalized and ready to go to the admiral or the ED or whoever would be signing it in your guys' case.
Thank you. That's why I wanted to know, like, if everybody changes it along the way, it would look very different by the time it gets. Thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead and screen share, and you're going to see, there we go. So it is back with me now, obviously, because I added myself back in. It says I'm the reviewer, right? So the one part that we get a lot of confusion with, if the document, if a document is, it will come back to me as the originator, and it'll be in a draft status. So once that happens, some people get confused. You make the changes that are needed, but it doesn't automatically, say Megan had returned it, it doesn't automatically add Megan right back to the bottom. I would need to go in and manually add her back in. So if she hadn't approved it and she had questions, or, was just like, nope, this isn't how I want it to be done, there's errors, then I'll go back in, I can add her back in, and I'm going to move her up. Anytime you add somebody to the route list, it will put them at the bottom. But again, you can drag and drop and move that person wherever you want. So once that's done, looks like that got unchecked. You just have to add them back in. I would download the document, fix any changes, and re-upload it again, and then submit it. So I would click save here, and it would go back to her. I'm not going to click submit because it's not with me for review. And again, I can do this and change it because I have admin rights, and it's currently with me for review. So I would hit save, and it would go back to Megan. Say I didn't want to add Megan, and I like the way this looked, and I'm done, and I'm going to say it's approved and it's good to go, and I'm going to click that OK button. It's going to load. So once again, after you click save or submit, submit or review or deny something, it'll always bring you back to that home page. So once it brings me back to the home page, I'm going to show you once something is completed. This is really taking its time. There we go. So once the document is completed, it will highlight in green, as you see here, and it shows a complete status, and it's done. So it's back with me as the reviewer because complete. So it goes back to the originator, and that is closed out. So then what we tell folks to do after that is, because we don't want the DRT to be a document holding area, that's what HPE is for. So we ask folks go in, and once it's completed, they go in, download all their documents, upload it to HPE, and then delete the entire item. If they want to keep, say, this testing with HQ, and I want to keep the routing as a template because it's tricky, or just for training purposes going forward, that's fine. We tell folks that they can do that for a couple, but delete the documents in there because we don't want it to be a document holding area. So once that's done, the originator can just go in and click this little delete button right there under actions, and it gets rid of it. And that is it. That's the DRT in a nutshell. I'm going to go ahead and stop.
Are there
screen
any
sharing.
limitations, time? Yes, are there time restrictions? So for whatever reason, a week or maybe a month has elapsed, would it automatically purge any records, or you have to physically purge it out yourself, or someone would have to purge it out?
Yeah, no, sir. It doesn't manually purge. Anybody, the originator or anybody with admin rights can go in and clean it out. So if we see that the list is getting pretty long on a few, because you can click on that all tab and then you see everything, right? And if we see that, hey, this was done a month ago, we'll reach out to some people and just ask them, hey, can you clean this up? Just so we don't have, because I think in our DRT, I think there's currently like 350 documents in there. And so it kind of bogs it down, right? So we want them to go in and just clean that out and get rid of things. So, but it won't purge it automatically. So if somebody is out or whatever, they don't have to worry about it just disappearing. Are there any other questions regarding the, flow of it or application in general?
I will say that it seems to be a little awkward at first when you see it, but once you get through it and you go through the tool a couple times, it kind of becomes second nature. We tried to make it very user friendly. And I know we've been discussing with Pam as you guys roll this out. She said that she's available to help, walk you through it. What we had to do is, for some folks, we even got on Teams with them on one-on-one so we could screen share and kind of walk them through the process the first couple times, just until they got it. But it really only took that.
No, I think you guys did a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, if that is all, I'm going to throw it over to Gina.
Well, thank you, Kylie and Megan. Great job. You continue to get better and better at this. I know this is new for you as well. So it didn't sound like there was any further questions, but just give a few minutes in case there were. Otherwise, we can close the meeting out, and we're here to help as needed.
Thank you all, ladies. I appreciate it. It was very beneficial.
You're welcome. And I just want to throw in too, we are doing another training. We're doing this exact thing again tomorrow at 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So I think all of you were on that invite as well. I don't know, Kylie, how many people we had sign up for it, but if you could help get the word out and make sure that those folks get in that, it would be really beneficial for us to kind of all have that training together.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.